this is just a sort of quick video that I thought might be interesting because of the quarantine we're under, and I thought I'd have a go at making, I think it's a Polish dish called Halusky that I saw on, well, it came up on my YouTube, you know, the screen where it allows you to, well, it predicts what you might like to watch. And I, for a couple of years now, have watched a channel about a lady who's no longer alive, called Cooking with Clara, and she lived through the Great Depression, and this is a channel that popped up in relation to that also talks about recipes that were common in the Great Depression across the United States, because obviously there's a very ethnically diverse community, much more, I would say, than in other countries. So and these have got some of my favourite ingredients. I don't know how it's going to work with my digestive difficulties, but you've got to have a go at things occasionally. I do like to live a little, and as we're on quarantine, I thought, well, even if things go horrific, well, I'm hoping things wouldn't go horrifically wrong, but I can cope with a bit of pain, and if that's the worst it gets, it's fine. So and also I need to point out that I've taken my medication a while ago so that I won't shake when I'm doing, or hopefully won't shake when I'm doing this. I have to make, if I do this, I have to try and do it when I'm sort of not drowsy, and before I start twitching and shaking because if something spits and things, I can sort of spasm, and that's obviously dangerous. Now, also, this kitchen has been specially adapted for me and designed. My dad designed it, and he sourced the materials for it. And this has got this kitchen has got a special. This is called Corin. This material. It's very, very expensive apparently, but it is, I have to say, very wonderful. And this has got a lip that hopefully prevents anything running off and onto your knee, because obviously being a person with a disability and having to sit under the stove, not that I do this very often, it is quite problematic in the sense that if it gets hot and I slip and twitch or whatever and hot liquid goes onto my knee, or it would be very dangerous. And having sustained burns to my feet when I first lived in a flat I hadn't been in the flat for more than 2 weeks, and I sustained quite severe burns to my feet, which took a fair few months to heal. That was just before I went in my wheelchair. Actually, it was my last few weeks of walking about, and I was trying to eke out the last of my walking ability, and I think maybe I shouldn't have tried to cook standing up because my spasms and various things were very uncontrolled at that point. And sort of being 18, you are occasionally stupid and bullheaded about things, particularly disability, and it's not always a bad thing, but in this case it was not a pretty sight. Well, neither was the living room carpet, but that got sorted out by the wonderful cleaner in the flats where I live. She was fantastic. But anyway, back to the dish. Here, my dad chopped me, because I can't chop things very well. It takes me a long time, or like cabbage, I can't chop at all because it's just fundamentally the wrong shape for me to like hold still and chop at the same time. So he's thoughtfully chopped the cabbage for me and put it in one of those plastic containers. And also sometimes I use chopped onion as well, chopped onion that's frozen from a store called Iceland, which is near where I live. but because we're having some food shortage and difficulties in the UK at the moment because of all the panic buying that went on because of coronavirus and things, my dad has thought he could only get a bag of frozen onion that was bigger than the freezer I have to stick it in, so that wasn't sort of a realistic plan. So he's chopped me an onion. He does this sometimes. I ask him to chop things like watermelon, if that's in season. Watermelon is a very common one, or any kind of melon. And I have the care staff now to do the chopping as well if they're around, which is also useful, because cooking with a disability can be quite hard, and some people are unable to do any kind of cooking, and others we need to buy a lot of pre-chopped things and pre-prepared things, which can make things very expensive to eat well. And I wanted to try this recipe because it looks, or it did on the YouTube video, look very nice. And also I have been aware of trying to improve my nutrition because of this, particularly because of this COVID-19 thing. I want to make sure that I'm as boosted as I can possibly be, even though I'm in isolation, because obviously having care staff, you're not entirely cut off from the world. So I wanted to try this and see if I can find a meal that I enjoy, and what I might do to improve it in the future. So I'll just roll over to the cupboard. I should have got the oil out before I attempted to do this. Where did I put the oil? See how it's there. So now, for safety reasons, I'm going to take the ingredients out of the way. We have the onion in this tub here. We have the shredded cabbage in this tub. And then I have a small bowl of pasta. This has been a complete rarity in the UK, but luckily I did have pasta in the back of my cupboard, along with some other things that are rare and I've lent out or given to people who are short of things, like tomatoes and beans and things. So this is, oh, come on, I should have got Dad to open this for me. Oh, there you go, finally. Yeah. So I'm going to move the ingredients out of the way, hopefully. And now I will just put a little jot of oil, not too much, hopefully that's not too much, onto the pan itself. And now this is a induction hob. So it allows, oh sorry, it's gone off. So you have to have specialised pans, which this is, and it will only work when both the hob and the pan sort of come into contact with each other, which means as soon as you take the pan off, it will be cool underneath, so you can't accidentally burn yourself, which is something I have done in the past. And also it's supposed to react more like a gas hob, and it is the closest I've come in my adult life to something that behaves like a gas hob. In my younger day, for example, I was a lot more sort of dexterous and well and all that kind of thing, and I used to in the summer holidays I used to boil some rice on the gas hob for lunch sometimes, or a bit of pasta, and that's a very, very different experience to a lot of electric hobs, particularly if you have a disability. I was very frightened of gas because you have to have the speed by which to activate it, you know, like put the gas on and light it, and that could be problematic for me. But luckily, I think the bullheadedness still kicked in and I'm still alive by the end of it. But anyway, so I'll now put this on, and this is, if you can hear that funny noise now, it's that they've connected, and it will start to warm. So I've put the oil around the thing, and it's on setting 5, so should take a while. Now I am going to have a go at undoing these steamer things. I hate CP. These are bloody things. Oh, sorry. And I have now got the pan off. I'll wait for it to warm a bit, and then I'll put the sauce in. I need to find my favourite spoon. No. This spoon I quite like because it's quite sort of broad, and it gives you quite a good sort of it's a nice weight, not too light, not too flimsy, and it's very good for when you're trying to brown things. I bought it for if I want garden peas, because it's very difficult for me to get the peas out of the pan without them spasming everywhere, and this is about as useful as or it's about as successful as something is likely to be. So now I'm going to just put a bit of onion in there just to see how hot it's going to be. Maybe I'll up it slightly. Come on, pan, boil, boil. Now you're boiling, so I'll just whack this onion in. That's that. Maybe. I feel a bit like Mary Rose Howley doing this. She's a drama student and a recovering anorexic, and she's a fantastic cook actually, and a vegan, and she does brilliant cooking videos as well as other things that are very funny. So you might want to check her out. I'll try and link her channel at the bottom of this, because she does some very interesting and funny content that's of a much greater standard than this. And so yeah, just going to let this brown. I think it will take a while, and I have to, if things are fibrous because of bowel disease, I have to well, I'm not supposed to have a lot of it at all, but I do, having previously, before I was ill like I am now, having previously, I was a vegetarian. So there's a whole saga, there's a whole big story about what happened to me. I think there's a video somewhere on this channel about it. But anyway, it transpires that fibre really doesn't like me very much. And because my body didn't process it very well, or couldn't deal with its sort of presence. I ended up having quite major surgery, so I have to be very careful. But I do still enjoy it. Sorry, it's a random conversation to have when you're cooking, but hey, I only have 47 subscribers and you all probably know me, so it's worth knowing that if you can't have a lot of fibre, sometimes it's better if you cook it down a lot so it's easier for your body to break down and process. So, and I won't eat a lot of this Halusky stuff at any one time. I shall eat it slowly and take care, because I don't want to end up in hospital at this current time. So yeah, this could be a bit of a boring part of the video really, but have any of you guys been doing some interesting sort of different recipes or anything since we've been in quarantine? I'm trying to devise some for next week, because Dad will have to go out and shop for us and we have to work out what vegetables we'll need. And I'm getting a bit bored of tomatoes on toast and soup, which is usually what I eat all the time. And I did want to try harder, because I do need to work on my nutrition. So, you know, I can use this time productively in a health kind of context. So, yeah. So, and this is a bit of time I'm allowed off the bed, which is also nice. So, yeah, so these are going quite well, but they're taking a while to colour up, or whatever you call them. I might turn it up again. Brown things, brown I say. Well, so I hope you guys have had the nicest day you can have had in quarantine. The weather is actually comparatively glorious for the UK. So it's not warm enough to go outside and read. And I've been wondering if I can put the bed outside if we have a good summer, but and because probably the hip won't be sorted by then. But it could possibly, because the bed's on wheels, so it might not be a bad thing. I haven't seen anybody at all. I'm rather worried I'm going to have to teach the cats road safety. But anyway, so I finished my book about Columbine today as well, while I was waiting for my psychotherapy appointment, which was online. I'm not liking this whole online caper, so really, although it's good to try and keep a little bit of things up, you can't, it's not the same deal as being in a room with somebody. I do like the visceral presence of people or person if I'm going to do anything psychological. I mean, the way I see it, I might as well just talk to YouTube if they're not there. But hey, this is life. We have to adapt to this new normal. You things. Come on, brown, brown, you know you want to. They're getting softer, but they're not browning. I wonder if they don't when they're in oil. I'm not very proficient, really. No, if my mum was still alive, she'd be telling me what to do by now. I was an absolutely appalling cook on, I can't realise you can't see this very well, I'm sorry. But I was an appalling cook as a kid, so, I mean, it's a funny story. Our family, we weren't exactly what you'd call modern in many ways. I was quite old before we had like a colour TV and that sort of thing, and along with that kind of ethos, which wasn't bad in the end, because my grandma bought us a TV, but that might be a story for another time. We never had a microwave until just before I ended up leaving home. So when we did microwaving at school, and you do all these weird things at special school and proviso of independent living, I didn't know things about like not putting foil and remember to prick your potato if you're going to have a microwave potato, which are not as superior as having them done in the oven, I have to say. You know, I'm a very oven person. It dries it out. Oh, come on, you stupid. Why didn't I take the lid off this? So I nearly sort of accidentally set the kitchen alight. It didn't go down very well with the home economics teaching woman. I think I might put some where are you? Mug thing. Yeah, I've had my water dispenser now. I think on the video they thought that the water was like, oh come on you Electra, this takes forever. I think on the video it was it said that, you know, its own moisture was enough, but I don't think it is because it's quite dry. And I'm going to have, and I haven't cooked the pasta separately, I'm going to cook the pasta in it, which I don't know whether will work, but hey ho, we'll have a go. So I'm going to try and put about half a pint in this so far, I think. Yeah, so you go. I might even cook the pasta separately, I don't know. So, but we can have a bash at this and see how we go. Oh, you Halusky. Cook. Cook for me. I don't know what I'm going to put this in when I'm finished. I've got a small tub, I suppose. That'll do. It's always something I fail to think about until it's too late. Oh, hello, Wumble. You know, it's not a sort of... Can we see you under there? Oh, I've been joined in the kitchen by a small cat. You've already had food, you're not having any more. Come on, here. So, right now I'm going to attempt to put some of this pasta in and see how we go. I haven't put all of it in because I am only one woman. And there's a lot of cabbage in here. Might cook down. She said it would cook down, but the idea of how far it would cook down, I don't know. They must have been healthy as horses in the Depression if you lived. I mean, I don't think you'd got far few with me, a bit decrepit and, you know, screwed up spine, slightly brain injured. But, you know, you've got to take your... I take inspiration from people that lived at that time and any other time that was very sort of hard, you know, very sort of hard graft orientated, because like we don't know, we're born now in many respects. Lots of us just, you know, plonk something in the microwave and think, well, hey, or, you know, when there was food shortages, people didn't know what to do with flour and bake cakes. Now I am very lucky in that sense that my family, they were, well, other than me, who is like, you know, being disabled, I was big Mrs. Micro meal and salad, which was in the end not that good for me, but we didn't find that out for years. And I do love salad very much, but I like lots of home cooked stuff, but I've never been that good at it because I require a lot of help with the chopping. And before I moved into my flats, the places I've lived weren't otherwise accessible, really. So, I mean, and you didn't have a lot of the sort of helpful gadgets that you've got now either. I mean, it was quite a big thing at my school because it was for disabled people. We did actually have units that go up and down, so it was a lot easier to do things sat down. But they weren't always what you call encouraging about you trying, or about the kind of progress in life you might be able to expect, like living. I don't think they had great hopes for me living by myself, for example. But you know, I'm still here 20 odd years later. A few injuries down the road, but you know, I'm still around. And I've still got these bracelets on from when I was at Oswestry, but don't excuse them. I keep meaning to ask one of the carers to liberate me from them because I can't chop them off. But yeah. Well, at least they know if anything happens to me, they'll know who I am. But yeah, this is going to be a video that's hella long, but yeah, I think it's cooking. I'm just got to wait for it to cook down. So I'll pause this video because you don't want to watch a whole load of pasta randomly cooking. So I'll pause it for now. I was just having a thought that it might actually be much easier if you had a pan with a lid, which I don't possess, but because it's very difficult. It can be quite difficult for me to get pans that I can use for this hob, because not because it's like an induction hob. Most people can get the pans very easily, but if I want to use them myself, they can't be too heavy because I have to move them around with much weaker hands, so they can't. I've always wanted proper lovely, you know, posh saucepans that people have, and I've always wanted one of those Le Creuset type things, and I don't know if you can get those for induction hobs anyway now, but I couldn't even I couldn't even lift the dish that was intended for one person. So they were out of the window, and when I first moved from the flat where I was living before here, which was just a normal electric hob, which was like a halogen hob, and they're quite sort of, I think, 70s and 80s. It was quite old when I was there, but they just use, you know, your average pan. And then I had this posh hob thing that needed all these special pans, and then we had to go round and around several shops to find pans that I could even lift when they were empty. So I think this might be a Jamie Oliver one. I've got a feeling that they were a Jamie Oliver one, or they were originally. Most of my saucepans are Jamie Oliver because they were the lightest, and they've been fairly durable. I mean, I don't cook a lot by any means. I don't know what they'd be like for a family, but for me, they've been fairly all right. Mum used to cook for me down here as well sometimes, so they've done some service, and so yeah, this is looking much better now. Oh, it's starting to reduce down nicely. The pasta's feeling softer, but I think I want to leave it for a while longer because I don't, and obviously because I've only got the a two-ring hob. Sorry about that, guys. So because I've only got a two-ringed hob, like using several pans is difficult, and because my reach isn't good, I can only really use one tub at a time. So that is just how it is. I have to adapt recipes or get Dad to make them and bring them down, but it's been nice to research this one myself, really, and try and make it come to fruition. But I shall oh, sorry, I've just realised you can't see because it's on the back. Sorry, I've had to move it to the back. Can you see it now? Sorry. So sorry, now you can see it's reduced. There's a lot less water in it than there was. It's cooking down nicely, and I think it would do even better if I had a lid on the pan, because you could just sort of leave it. I think you could probably even do this in a slow cooker if you had a mind to. But I haven't got one of those. There is a slow cooker mode on this hob thing, but I haven't ever really used. I think I did one about 12 years ago, and that was when my mum was still alive, so she was around to supervise. And I've always been very worried about leaving things on the stove after, you know, when she, in case something happens, because I'm very careful. And some days I wouldn't be safe to cook at all, but hey, all this extra rest and quarantine has got to be good for something. So now you see this, it's reduced down nicely, and let me see what it tastes like. I'm going to get a teaspoon, I think, and taste it. There is nothing like a teaspoon for just... See, all my fancy American viewers have those little tiny measuring cook things which are fabulous. But let's get a bit of it. Not very well mixed in, sorry. Come on, pasta. You will come to me. Come to me. That is very nice. Yeah, I think that's a success. I'll just leave it a few more minutes just to be safe. The onions are getting a bit brown now, guys. Spectacular. I'm going to turn it down slightly. So now hopefully we have a 1-pan Halusky. And I have my trusty Tupperware to stick it in. Sorry, and I'm going to stick it in. Right, I'll give you a final look at it, and this is it. I hope it was useful, guys. I can say it tastes very nice. I'm about to have a portion of this for my dinner now, so I'll let you know how it goes and what it tastes like. Hi guys, I just wanted to round off the small cooking video I did and hope it's of help to some of you going through this food crisis and extended quarantine. I have to say the Halusky was fantastic. I could have eaten a lot more than I did, but due to my intestinal issues I don't kind of dare overload my system. Even when I feel well and hungry, it can be quite a sort of dangerous occupation. So I've got a portion for tomorrow, which I'm very much looking forward to. I hope you got something out of this video, and I will see you in my next one. Okay, bye.